Kingdom people, they need for you to lose for them to feel like they winning. They need for you to be small so they can feel big. They need for you to be little so they can be feeling like they tall. And so when I reflected upon this morning, I realized that that's a sickness. That is a spiritual sickness. That is a mental sickness. That is an emotional sickness. People who need you to lose to feel like they winning. People who feel like you need to be small so they can feel like they big. People that need you to be little so they can feel tall. They are spiritually, mentally, and emotionally sick. They are ill. And so, as I was reflecting upon this, God reminded me of Judas and how scripture says, and Satan entered Judas. And so, what that really made me take into consideration, is how sometimes people develop this. Obviously, there is an open door for them to develop it. And what I mean by that is this. As the scriptures say, Satan entered Judas. That means there was an entry point for Satan to enter Judas. There was an open door and or vulnerability. Judas definitely had an open door and vulnerability of jealousy. He also had an open door and vulnerability of greed. He sold Jesus out for some coins, for some shekels, for some moolah, for some money. So those were open doors and vulnerabilities where Satan could enter in an effort to betray Jesus, to sell him out to the highest bidder, so to speak. Anyhow, here's the thing. Sometimes people can be cool with you as long as y'all rocking the way y'all do. You're enjoying the same things. You just, repeat. It's a repetitive experience. But as soon as you decide to level up, as soon as you start to grow, evolve, switch it up, do things different, because you're at a place in your life where it's time for you to elevate. It's time for you to change some things. That's sometimes, well, in this case, all the time, when Satan enters or just triggers something that's already there. When a vulnerability, they have vulnerabilities, they have open doors. In other words, unresolved issues, things that they haven't dealt with, maybe some unhealed trauma. Those are open doors and vulnerabilities. And so, again, when you begin to level up, they get triggered. And that's when Satan enters. Now, don't get me wrong. Sometimes people just being secretly needing you to be low so they can feel high. Secretly needing you to lose so they can feel like they're winning. They've been secretly doing this all along. But there are some cases where it happens, where it wasn't the case all along, because for the most part, you all were on the same level. But as soon as you decided to level up, it was your time to level up. And see what happens is this. When you decide to level up, in this sense, they get triggered because they feel threatened. They feel like, okay, now you doing something outside of the norm, what you all have been doing. And the main reason why they're triggered is because they're not ready to do that. They're not ready to level up. If people are not growing with you and leveling up with you, they're going to become your enemy. Unless they someone who's really content with where they are. And they just don't have all that stuff going on in them, which is rare, but it does happen. But in this situation, under these circumstances, a person gets triggered and then Satan enters. because they're not ready to grow, to make the changes in their life. So that's why they need you to lose to win. Now, sometimes to feel like they winning. Sometimes they may have tried to level up, but in the wrong spirit. And sometimes the wrong spirit could be to try to outdo you. It could be to compete with you, which is pretty much the same thing. It's just in the wrong spirit. They just not doing it for the right reasons. And so it doesn't work. And see, when you're doing it in those wrong spirits, that's not God's spirit, that's Satan's spirit. And Satan ain't trying to level up nobody, even though he'll say, I give you this for that. But when you attempt to actually level up, but in his spirit, it don't work. Because that ain't what Satan ain't leveling you up, elevating you in his spirit. Again, that's not what he do. God can level you up in his spirit. Anyhow, what happens is sometimes they do attempt to level up in the wrong spirit, or they just don't want to do it at all. And so that's precisely why they need you to be small so they can feel big, to be little so they can feel tall. They need you to lose so they can feel like they winning, because they not getting ready to do nothing to actually put in an effort. So they need you to be low. And sometimes they're secretly doing this. Of course, until you recognize the secret, then it's not a secret anymore, because you see it. See, what's in the person is going to come out. As a man thinking is his heart, so is he. And anything done in the light, anything done in the dark is going to come to the light. So while they're hiding it, trying to, harboring in their hearts, secretly hating on you, secretly wanting you to be small, lose, and, be little, while they're secretly doing this, it's going to start leaking out, because it has to come out into the light. And so again, it's no longer a secret, because now you're seeing it. So here's the thing. People like this are not good people to be around, obviously, for good reasons, obviously. Because what happens is once Satan enters, he means the people who he entered, they mean you no good. Just like Judas. Once Satan entered Judas, he didn't mean Jesus no good. He wasn't even no good for himself. He wasn't no good for his own self. People like that are not good for themselves or anybody else. Once Satan enters, and now they're on a rampage to do nothing but damage and harm, they're not the kind of people you want to be around and entertain. And so while having this moment this morning, God brought back to my remembrance a situation that happened a few months ago with an older lady that I know. She had an injury, and she had fell and she injured herself, had some broken bones. She had done the same thing precisely a year prior. And so I'm at her house visiting with her, doing some little things around the house for her, because she really couldn't do much. And, when I got done, I kind of sat down and we were kind of talking. And she asked me a question, which was inappropriate. It wasn't even a normal kind of question she would ask, a way that we would normally talk. It was a monitoring spirit kind of question. It was pretty invasive. So much so her husband even noticed, because he looked up. He was shocked. Now, I said whatever I said, and that was that. I kind of let it go. But another time later, she asked me a more invasive question. And that question was, what's going on in your house? And what God showed me is Satan had entered. She's a good person, a decent person. I would even say, loves God and all that. But God said Satan entered through that vulnerability. And her vulnerability was that she was feeling low because of, her falls and feeling like she couldn't do nothing. And so Satan will use something that small. Now that situation you just got to be careful with and be mindful, because it wasn't that harmful, but I'm not going to answer those monitoring spirit questions. But kingdom people, They need you to be low to feel tall.